Welcome to this week's episode of Lagni-POD. I'm your host, Rob Holbert. We got a shorter staff here. We got a few less people than usual. So
in number, not stature.
Yeah, right.
Scott Johnson. I'm
Brady Petrie, and I'm Kyle Hamrick.
This is it. This is just a boys' club here today.
That's it. We got bare bones.
All right. Well, Scott, you have a big story this week. The cover story on DUIs and specifically the how the law enforcement are kind of really hammering this thing, going down in a little different road with the way they're prosecuting it, and being a little harder on some of the prosecutions.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's really apparent that there's a lot of people are just done with DUI deaths. I mean, there's been 3 really tragic ones in the last 6 months, and we had Nolan McDavid and the Thanksgiving weekend, November, and we had someone killed at an intersection in Mardi Gras.
Catherine. Oh yeah,
and then we had Catherine Smith back in September of last year, and beloved people, every one of them. The other drivers all walked away from the wreck basically, with little to no injuries. No injuries I know of. And
it's kind of amazing that in these cases that it just seems like the person accused of drunk driving somehow is unscratched and have killed other people. It just is, that whole thing of, going limp, or I don't know, whatever. It's bizarre though that how this has happened, because the cover of the paper this week is McDavid's car.
Yeah.
Which, it is, when you look at that, it takes your breath away looking at that car. It is torn to pieces.
It's like somebody just put it in their hand and crumbled it up like
it looks like
paper.
Chewed bubble gum, basically. It is just unbelievable how mangled it is.
Yeah.
And, how could somebody hit that and do that much damage and then manage to walk away unhurt from the other side? But
it's devastating. And we
but 2 of those cases they are charged with indifferent murder, right? Am I saying it correctly? Yes.
Yeah, you got a range of options, and that was one of the things that Blackwood was explaining to me, is that Keith Blackwood, the DA, district attorney, he was saying that prosecutors really have a broad range of options to charge someone with if they're driving under the influence. I mean, from a misdemeanor class A all the way up to a murder charge, which is extreme indifference murder, which he said is he equated it to intentional murder. He said it was just as bad. He doesn't see it as like a compromise between manslaughter or reckless, a homicide charge.
Right.
But
it's in essence, they're basically saying it's almost premeditated because of the way that someone is behaving.
It's the factors all taken together. That you completely devalued life. Yeah,
excessive speeding, running red lights, running stop signs, doing things like that. Yeah, as well as obviously being intoxicated. Yeah, that those things are just. It's even worse in his mind, basically, than somebody who is intoxicated, who's, I guess, trying to drive relatively safely and just has an accident, and kills somebody. But this is, somebody who's not even attempting to drive in any way a safe fashion. And I think the first one we saw was Dr. Nocula, right?
Yeah, recently. That's the first one that comes to to mind.
Right.
And he was that's the Mobile neurosurgeon.
Yes,
who was in the car with 24-year-old Samantha Thomas. They lost control while he was flying down one of the I-65 service roads. Yeah, flipped the car.
They said he was going well over 100 miles an hour,
like
right?
130 something. Yeah, he had an
extremely fast
Audi R8 Spider.
The Lamborghini engine was what it was.
Yeah.
And he flipped it, and again, he walked away from the crash, and she was killed instantly.
It's amazing.
And they're sitting right next to each other. Yeah. I don't get it.
It's really all 4 of those things that we're looking at, that this exact same circumstance. But it's a great piece, and I think it's also just really good for people to read and to think about, before they get behind the wheel and cause damage and cause death. It is really it is a sobering piece, no pun intended by any stretch, but it is really, when you read it and you start thinking about the lives that are lost. And I mean, the people are really, obviously just devastated by these deaths, and it's a big deal.
It's just like murder. Like when someone's committed murder, I mean, you basically lose, not just the person who was killed, you lose the other person too. I mean, two families suffer a loss because that person's life has been completely uprooted. It's never going to be the same.
Yeah.
They're going to face, especially in DUI, you're going to face a lot of criminal processes, and then you've got probably a civil charge, civil process after that.
Yeah, right. That's true too. Yeah,
it's crazy.
But we'll switch gears a little bit. Talk a little bit about what's going on with the port. I know that this is sort of a up in the air type of situation right now, but there's still discussion about this Chinese, the possibly fining Chinese ships coming into the port. And I know we're talking about that a little bit, but haven't really written about it yet, but we're talking about it. At this point, we don't really know what's going to happen, right?
Yeah, the original proposal that was in front of the trade representative was in response to this, investigation that came January.
Yeah,
that China's got all these unfair trade practices in shipping, logistics, and container ships and military construction, and it basically is like, we're gonna fine you. I can't remember the exact numbers off the top of my head, but it was
$1 million to $1.5 million
plus
per call on a port.
Yes.
So the deal behind or the thought process behind it, apparently, at least what was put out there, and whether those things matter anymore or not, I don't know. It's hard to tell because whatever people say doesn't apparently mean anything. But we're told that this is
the art of the deal.
It's it's just like we say that this is what it is and it's something else. But the thought process, according to the president, is that this is going to help rebuild the American shipbuilding industry, which is producing less than 1% of the ships in the world at this point.
I don't think. I think I heard stats on this the other day. Is that we have 7. We built 7, and they're smaller, and they are not in international waters.
Right.
And it's it would take it would take almost like a decade for us to even get up to speed in any kind of capacity.
But the thing is saying, okay, we're going to find any ship that is a Chinese-made ship, or if it's in a fleet with Chinese-made ships, that they would be fined. The latest news on this that's kind of floating around is that perhaps some of that is softening because of there was a pretty intense pushback from ports around the country, including the Port of Mobile. The Alabama State Port Authority wrote and said, "Hey, we can't have this. This is just not going to work." And
in a very amicable way.
Yeah, and I mean, what we're seeing, or some of the things you're seeing, is that if it were to happen, or if it does happen, and I guess that somebody out there put a date on it, but it's saying it may happen next week, but that's not necessarily. There's nobody in the administration who has said that date, so that doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to happen on that date. But if it does, basically the ports, there's some talk that ports like Mobile may be left out in the cold because they would be trying to coalesce everything on much larger ships. Although Mobile can take the larger ships now, but trying to get to really big ports and then just use rail and trucks to get them around the country, right?
This is what they did during COVID, right? They all just like San Francisco?
It was L.A.
They all just like were mooring off the coast, and they were just all trying to consolidate in one spot, and basically, it's catastrophic, and you don't want that. You're going to back up everything. Supply chains were a huge issue in COVID. We don't want any of that. I mean, all that equals is just extreme inflation.
Well, I think so too, but I mean, that I guess remains to be seen what happens. But it really is. I mean, the head of the Port Authority, wrote to the trade representative, the Trump administration's trade representative, a couple of weeks ago, and said, doing this will be very damaging to what Port of Mobile is doing. I mean, we look at, and I think some of the stuff we were reading yesterday is saying, particularly harm would be container shipping and automobiles to the biggest things that we do here. And so, it would be pretty tough, I think, for the port if that sort of thing started happening. Hopefully, as we're sitting here today, there was a 90-day pause on some of the tariffs, at least some of the punitive tariffs, or as they call them, reciprocal. I would say punitive, but and then, there would still be the 10% baseline tariff that's going to stay in place. So there is going to still be tariffing going on. And I had a friend of mine who said, I have to read this, but sent me a text and said that she had tell a client today they're now going to pay 150% in duty for a load of I won't say what the product is, but a load of product valued at $100,000. So this is metal material. So they have to pay 154% on. I mean, this is somebody who works in that type of industry, and they're like, basically said that people are losing their minds coming in there and seeing these types of this type of money.
That's even with the announcement.
Yeah. I mean, well, it's already today. This is just from the aluminum and steel tariffs that have already been put in place. Those are not coming off right now. Wow. That's the ones on Canada. So that's, there's some pretty big numbers that can be paid out there for things that you're doing. And there is still a lot of potential problem for people who are doing business in the United States. There's a lot of stuff that can happen. So we'll see how it goes. Hopefully all this stuff will, I hope, go away, because I mean, certainly we sit in a city where we have, a huge port. We have Austal that's owned out of Australia. We have Airbus that's owned by Europe. We have I always say it wrong.
Kumpu.
Yeah, I say it. None of us can say it, but yes, the steel factory up north.
On the,
used to be ThyssenKrupp. That's formerly known as ThyssenKrupp.
There we go.
Also foreign owned. The European owned. So I mean, those are just a few to name here. So we are surrounded with big companies that employ a lot of people that do have foreign ownership, and as well as the port, which does a lot of importing and exporting as ports do. And so those are all things that I think could really hit Mobile particularly hard if we keep doing this, or we end up in a really full-blown trade war.
Well, plus, I mean, in my opinion, the back and forth probably hampers development a lot, because I mean, if you've got tariffs today and no tariffs the next day, I mean, why would any business or manufacturing company come in and invest money in?
I can't imagine. I feel like some of these, this is just my personal opinion and based on nothing other than observations of human nature. But if people are telling the administration, we're going to invest $500 billion. Are they just shining them on just to say, hey, let's keep him off our back for 2-3 years and he'll be gone. But I just don't think people are going to look at what's going on currently in this up and down, back and forth whipsaw type of program and say, yeah, we're going to go in and invest billions of dollars to build factories when in 3.5 years, there's going to be a new president who may change these policies completely.
Yeah.
Maybe the emergency, which we always have to remember that this is being done under an emergency, the auspices of that there's an emergency.
Yeah.
So, these are
emergency powers.
These are being done as executive orders. They're not being done by Congress.
Yeah.
So they can change with the stroke of a pen. And so that's an issue that it's something people are going to have to really look at and as they are investing. But I think it's going to be something that a lot of consumers and certainly business owners are going to be dealing with, even small business owners.
Yeah, I wonder if Congress is going to act on that. I know that there was a proposal to adjust those emergency powers. I don't know.
I don't think you're going to see Congress.
I don't have any faith in it.
I don't think you're going to see Congress act at any point unless things become really high pressure. I think that this backing off on and 90-day taking tariffs off for 90 days is basically the administration realizing that things were getting really bad and it was about to get much worse and the pressure was going to become intense. Yeah. I don't buy personally that it was the plan all along. I don't buy that.
This was the plan all along.
I don't think that. I don't buy that. But anyway, we're going to take a quick break. We'll come back and talk about a few other things.
Town, Lanyap Daily is on the beat. For just $6.50, it's all the news, keeping local folks in the loop. Oh, Lanyap Daily, every single morning, catching up on stories while the coffee's pouring. The local truths on every page, news for the folks of every age.
It's just $6.50 a month for Mobile's daily news, Lanyap Daily. Get signed up now at lanyapmobile.com and help keep Mobile funky.
Whoa, down in our Alabama town, Lanyap Daily's on the beat. For just $6.50, it's all the news, keeping local folks in the loop. Oh, Lanyap Daily, every single morning, catching up on stories while the coffee's pouring. The local truths on every page, news for the folks of every age.
Just $6.50 a month for Mobile's daily news, Lanyap Daily. Get signed up now at lanyapmobile.com and help keep Mobile funky.
And we are back. We don't have Tommy Hicks today. So we won't be talking about the fact that I won our basketball pool.
Yeah, we can just skip over that.
We won't talk about the fact that I came in second the first year of the of fantasy football league here, won it this year, and then won the basketball thing. So we won't talk about those things today.
Yeah, it's a real shame.
If Tommy's not here, we're not going to talk about those things.
As the commissioner for all of those things you mentioned, we've either got to significantly cut back on our things that we do here involving sports, or we've just got to make so many of them that other people win.
Yeah, there we go.
I want to call a full investigation into Brady and his letting Rob win.
Well,
I know this is a scheme.
Let's just say there's extreme luck involved. Okay,
I mean, is it a coincidence that you are a co-publisher and also the undefeated champion? It's almost like Donald Trump just winning all his golf tournaments.
Yeah, it is. It is. I am the greatest. Yes. But anyway, but let's talk about some other things going on. Let's first of all talk about flooding, because we had everybody around here dealt with some pretty amazing flooding the other day.
Yeah. I mean, it didn't matter where you were. Yeah. You saw some record rainfall on Sunday.
It was a goalie washer.
It was eye popping was what it was.
I mean, I lived in Oakley on Selma Street for many years, and I would call it the Selma River when this kind of thing happened. But the asphalt was peeled off the road.
Peeled back.
Peeled from the road.
Down to the ground.
Yeah. I mean,
chunks of road missing.
Chunks of road being just yanked up in the and there was somebody sent a video of a motorboat going down Selma
chopping
Street.
Up the street.
I mean, just going down the thing.
I mean, it's
unbelievable.
It was nuts. I mean, we were coming back from Orange Beach, and we were at a cheer competition down there at the wharf, and thought it didn't hit us. We thought maybe it was going a little north. Coming back across the Bayway, we had to go 25 miles an hour. That was unbelievable. Scary. I mean, just I don't know when I've seen it rain harder.
Yeah,
but we almost couldn't. We lived down DIP, and we almost couldn't get home. It was just There were cars stalled out everywhere, all over the road. Mm-hmm. So I know that at council the other day, at city council, this became a pretty big issue, right?
Yeah. No recency bias at all in these conversations.
Yes.
But all of the council members were fired up, except for Joel Daves, who really just said that, this is where we live. This is going to happen.
Joel Daves has there's fish in the ocean. It rains in Mobile.
The
This
sage.
is it, right?
Right.
Yeah.
It was like,
Nothing new under the sun.
Right. It was like, this is going to take $1 billion to fix.
Yeah. What are you going to do?
What are you going to do about it?
Yeah. I mean, we live in an old city. We get
Built on a swamp.
extraordinary amounts of rain.
I'm not running for re-election.
That's the biggest thing, right?
Yeah. It was his take. I appreciate his take.
I appreciate the honesty of it.
Yeah.
And I mean, he's not wrong. I mean, with as much old infrastructure as Mobile has and where we're simply located, it's almost impossible to completely fix a situation.
Yeah.
It is.
There are people who are upset about it. And,
Yeah.
and it is, it's one of those things where folks, I don't know what we're going to do about this. But I mean, it also was an unbelievable amount of rain. I mean, what did we have? Like, I think Spanish Fort got
Like
12
13,
or
13 inches.
Yeah.
With
Yeah, they
that.
got
crazy.
And so we got
13
over
inches.
3 inches in an hour at one point, which
Yeah.
is just unbelievable
It
amount of
is.
rain.
I mean, it wasn't just just a huge thunderstorm. It was just so slow moving that it just dumped tons and tons of rain and just backed up everything. And one of the solutions, I don't know how effective it would be, but the city's talked about
Giant umbrella.
a giant umbrella over the city, but
Okay,
I don't know the feasibility of that or the budget. But anyway, there is a plan. The street sweepers hit supposedly every location in the city at least once a year.
Right.
There's been talk of hitting every spot more than once, but
Because the accumulation of leaves and stuff.
of leaves and
And what
trash.
role did the beavers play in this thing?
The beavers play a huge role in this
They
thing.
did.
And it's kind of ironic that the talk of beavers impacting stormwater has dominated the past couple of council meetings.
and many of these podcasts as well. Yes.
And then it all just culminates with this huge thunderstorm, and just all of a sudden everybody's like, "Oh, now we've got to deal
And the
with
beavers
flooding,"
are just like rubbing their little paws together, like, finally.
well,
Chittering to themselves about
Enjoy the water, boys. Yeah.
They saying the beavers are in like these ravine creeks, or are they like in the system itself?
They're both, but some of them are in the
There's like
system.
an
but
underground
sewer-
Mobile.
There's some subterranean dams being built.
There's like,
there are.
It's like New York
Subterranean.
City, where there's like an underground New York City, but it's all just inhabited by beavers.
It's all just
They're
beavers.
rising
The mutant
up,
beavers have gone down. They're underneath. Yeah.
Oh God!
and they're ninjas too.
Yeah, the
That's a
mutant ninja beavers. They're out down there building dams in the pipes, and then you've got beavers building them up top. That they're trouble.
It's just a huge issue.
But it was. I mean, it probably was. If it was your house that was being flooded, I mean, you had enough rain, and then beaver dam making it worse. It's not. That's got to be no fun.
I've actually I made several calls today to 311 because I've got a storm line that goes from my property to the road. Actually, it's not mine; it's my neighbor's. But anyway, it goes right under a live oak tree.
Yeah.
And that thing, there's no water going through it. So I'm pretty sure the live oak has crushed that storm drain completely. I mean,
chance.
It's flooding the entire neighborhood.
Yeah.
Because there's no outlet. And
you getting some response on 311?
I had to call them back multiple times, but they ended up being helpful.
It took us 4 calls in the last 24 hours to get them to come get a dog. I had a pack of wild dogs that just showed up on my property the other day, and 3 of them I scared away somehow, but the other 2 were just like, this is where we're going to be. We're going to live here now.
I had a support ticket that one of my support tickets I put in, just like they just closed it. They're like, this issue's been resolved. I'm like, no, it hasn't.
Yeah. I think I've called 3 times in the last like 28 to 30 hours, and I got no response. My wife called, and finally, like, all of a sudden there's police out there. Now I'm like, are they going to shoot the dogs? I don't know, but they got them apparently. They're out there getting them.
That's ironic because, I've been covering the city council for a couple months now, and at least once every meeting, there's somebody that has some kind of 311 problem, and that's always their solution. Just call 311; they'll take care of it. And to hear you guys talk about
I mean, I've called them a few times in my life, and I can't say that I've ever been massively impressed with how quickly something comes to pass. But the dogs are just like, I mean, I'm like, can we just get somebody to come take these dogs out of here? I can't grab them. They're going to bite me. These are feral dogs. They're not happy dogs.
How long before the dogs get squatters' rights?
They're getting close.
They're getting close.
Yeah, they're getting close to, almost becoming part of the family. But we'll see. Hopefully the police took them away in chains today.
We had
I don't know how this has devolved into dog pound, but anyway.
beavers.
Well, it all started with the 311.
Yeah, it's about to get back on
all the
on
problems.
stream.
Get hating on the 311, but
there was even some. They had to rescue some people on Halls Mill. They had a water rescue. They had a boat, right? They had to take a boat and rescue someone from their car.
There were a bunch of people in Baldwin County that had to be rescued too because of the rain. And I thought it was interesting. One thing that William Carroll says, houses today are not being built high enough. They're all being built level with the streets, with the street level, and that's led to a lot more flooding. But goes back to the the drainage situation. If you fix the drainage situation, you wouldn't have to worry about
it. That's exactly right. That was my thing when I read that in your story. I'm like, sure, that's great to do going forward. But what about all the people who are on the ground right now? And are getting washed out.
We just got to elevate. Everybody on stilts.
Yeah, stilts. Let's just not fix the problem. Let's just build on stilts, and we'll be okay. It is that's a tough one. Speaking of water issues, also that's a segue. We are going into Big Creek Lake. The fight over Big Creek Lake, which is getting sort of like Branch Davidian-ish. It's getting
Ruby Ridge.
It's getting this point.
I'm getting very concerned.
It is. Yeah, it's going to be something else, man. I like the Gadfly this week. Basically like the freedom.
The William Wallace.
William Wallace.
They'll never take our lake.
You'll never take my fly rod.
Kay Ivey, the Longshanks.
Yeah. It's But so the story, of course, is. Moss shut down Big Creek Lake to recreational, saying, "Look, we got to protect our water." Shane Stringer, representative, filed a bill up in Montgomery to basically say that utilities do not have the right to close waterways that they're in control of, which it has not been passed, but he's trying to get that done.
Yep.
Then Moss came out there. They had a hearing up in Montgomery that was packed with angry fishermen. And the malls, the head of malls is saying, look, we got to close this down because of, brought up a couple things that we had heard of giant salvina, the grass, but then there was also what?
An impending zebra mussel invasion.
Zebra mussels.
Not just zebra mussels.
Yeah.
Russians.
Yeah, Ruski zebra mussels. Yeah. Dropped in from Siberia. So we've got the zebra mussel is making its way down the state, south of the state. So at this point, where are we? We've got, and you also talked to Department of Environmental Resource, not environmental,
the conservation
resource. Yeah, they said, hey, this waterway is a public waterway. It's not shut down. So we've got all these forces coming together.
Yeah,
where are we now?
It's basic. Up until earlier this week, it was really like, who do we believe?
Right.
It's like you got the national resources who are saying this is a public waterway, navigable waterway. It's open. You can't close it. You can fish it. And then you've got Moz over here who has a contract with the Mobile County Sheriff's Office to enforce their closure. And all it would take is someone just, I'm going to take an act of civil disobedience and go put myself on the lake. And
if you can launch your if you could launch your boat somewhere up in Big Creek, north of there,
which you can, I've learned, yes,
and you could just float right down into the lake, right?
It's still accessible. So
the issue, of course, Malls is worried about is with regard to the razor mussels, is that if you go into a body of water that has them, that they could get their spores or whatever on there microscopically, and if you don't wash your boat correctly with bleach and all this other stuff, that it can get in the lake, and then they just drop off and start going to town.
The Florence deals with this. When I lived up in North Alabama, you hear it about it all the time. These things will cluster up rapidly, and they'll just clog up an engine. They'll just cluster into a water pipe, like an intake pipe, clog the whole thing up. You can't.
And they're not delicious, right?
From what I understand,
not edible.
Tastes like vodka.
Not advised.
Tastes like vodka. Tastes like old potatoes. Yes. Tastes like borscht.
Nothing that you want in the water by any means. And also even giant Slovenia. I mean, the solution is spray pesticide everywhere. And you don't want to spray pesticide in your drinking water. I think everyone has an issue with that as well. I think everyone's in agreement that they don't want stuff in the water. I just don't think people have a really big issue with Moz just being able to apparently just unilaterally on a whim decide to close this thing down.
So at this point, Moz is trying to come up with a solution. They're coming up with a compromise, right?
That was after being up in Montgomery and kind of getting grilled over transparency. It was not pretty for them up there. They had a meeting up Monday, and Brady went there, and it sounds like they had some kind of solution.
Yeah, I mean, they compromised a little bit. They're basically going to partner with a private company to build a recreational facility, and they're going to allow for boat rentals, kayak rentals, and they're going to open up more area in the lake. I think around 1,100 more acres for people to fish in. So it sounds like a good compromise, but even still, spoke to some fishermen afterwards who are still not in favor of it.
Not happy. They want to use their bass boats.
They want to use their boats.
Right.
They don't want to have to rent anything.
Right.
And, I think it comes down to, the fishermen don't like this change. They don't like what they feel like is overreach by Moz, and they're not going to be on board with any kind of compromise.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, you have Moz who over the last 10 years has basically taken over every bit of property around the lake. So they can now ticket anybody who's on their land around the lake on that, at least not the upstream part, but and I think everyone there in that Sims-Wilmer area really feel like, those people down in Mobile have extended out and come and taken over. And but there are a lot of Mobile people who are upset about this too. But,
it's when I was looking into this to write a column a few weeks ago that, I looked at a lot of different places and what they do, and it seemed like the bigger the lake, the more recreation that was allowed on it. But as they got a little smaller, and ours is not by those terms a giant lake. It's a big lake, but it's not. It's a big creek lake, even.
Yeah.
But it's not.
Some might say.
But it's not as big as certainly some reservoirs are. Mm-hmm. And as I looked, most of those, as you got a little smaller, most of them had some sort of restrictions. They only allowed, they don't allow gas engines on the water. They have their own boats, that kind of thing, or they don't allow swimming. They don't allow fishing. They don't allow some of those things. But which seems like where we're headed. Yeah. The question is, are people going to, are they going to do this whole thing of we're going to have a boat rental and all this kind of junk, and nobody's going to use it because they want to use their own boats, or or can they? Is there a public launch up Big Creek somewhere?
No, I think it's all private launches. But I was told by someone told me, he's like, we could put boats in the water right now. There's plenty of people who have access,
small enough boats where they could just toss them off the bridge or what,
there are plenty of
that they have
ramps
some access,
up there.
That they have some places where they could get in. The
issue is, I mean, if you're the line with protecting the lake is you do have a highway going over it, so hazardous materials crossing over it every day.
That's an issue in and of itself. You've got Highway 98 going right across it.
You also have two oil pipelines running under it.
Well,
it's just I don't know. It's not a good. I don't know. It's a difficult issue.
Is it olive oil? I mean, is it what is it?
Great question.
Something
because the clams could be good with
potato oil.
With the Salvinia, mix a little Salvinia in there and some olive oil and clams.
Salvinia salad.
You could, you get a little oil. It's good. I don't know. Yeah, it seems to me what makes the most sense is just build some piers out there, build some nice piers for folks, big long piers, and let them go fish off of it. But they might not like that either. I don't know. But it's but that just seems like the easiest thing. Then you avoid the whole thing of boats being in the water and clam residue or whatever getting all over it, mussel residue. It just that seems like the easiest thing. But who knows? It's going to continue. This is not over by any stretch yet.
Yeah, and I mean, I don't know if the people who are upset are going to take this as a solution. I mean, I think they're pretty ideological that they're against, this quasi-governmental utility just shutting things down like this. I wouldn't be surprised if it moves on. I don't know how far it'll get, but
do you think there's going to be, I know there's been some sort of whispers of just like, we're just going to put boats in the water and go anyway and see what happens. Is that, y'all think that might come to pass?
I think so. Yeah, I think it's going to reach that point. I mean, one fisherman I spoke with said as much. He said, we're going to put our boats in the water anyways. And I was like, all right, so just let me know.
There's
when it goes down,
There's going to be something.
Rumor is that there's going to be some political campaigns sprouting out of this too. So I mean,
which is going to be fascinating because mayoral candidate Barbara Drummond sits on the board of laws. So
well, all right, guys. Well, that's all we got for this week. But thanks a lot for listening, folks, and we will be back next Thursday with the next Lagni-POD. Y'all have a great week.
The Lagni-POD is a Something Extra publishing production. Executive producers are Rob Holbert and Ashley Trice. Music is by Some Pulse Sounds and Electro Animals. Only subscribers like you have access to this podcast. Tell your friends they can sign up at my.lanyapmobile.com. For advertising opportunities, please call 251-450-4466.